Today is a rainy day outside, so we are going to do a little bit of research and development in the bakery. And something I love about doing this home bakery is choosing the menu each week, but especially for holidays and special occasions. And I really wanted to try for Easter doing a carrot cake sourdough loaf. So we're gonna try it today and see how it turns out and see if it's something that we can put on the menu. So bake along with me. All right, we've got all of our ingredients here pre-measured out. This is my pre-measured starter, but I just wanted to show you this is some nice active and bubbly starter. Look at that activity. You know it's gonna make a good rise of a loaf. Okay, so first we're going to mix our starter in with our water. And this part, it is best to mix with your hands just to break up that starter so that it kind of dissolves. It doesn't have to fully dissolve in the water, but you do want it to break up so it's not just a clump. It can make your dough clumpy and it can just make the proofing uneven, which matters more for if you're doing multiple loaves, but still. Okay, next we're gonna add in our salt and spices, which is just some cinnamon, clove, and ginger. And then we have our flour. Forgot the honey. Try and mix it in with the more liquidy part so that it's not going to clump. I did not pre-measure this, obviously, so we're just eyeballing it. That should have been mixed in with the water for the best results, but it'll be okay. And I know it's messy, but this part is best to do by hand unless you have a nice dough mixer, just because this is going to really develop the gluten. And it will just help your loaves rise higher and maintain their rise. You want to mix it for a minimum of like 4 minutes. You can go a lot longer than that. That's not usually necessary. Okay, I've been mixing it for a few minutes and we're just about good enough. If you are seasoned at bread making but new to sourdough, it's good to note that the dough does not have to pass the window pane test at this stage. The gluten will continue to develop and strengthen as you go through the fermentation process. So it is okay with sourdough that it looks very shaggy at this stage. And what I like to do now is just kind of scrape the sides of the bowl as much as I can. You can use a scraper for this, but I couldn't find mine, so my hand is just gonna work fine. And then we're gonna cover it up for 30 minutes, and then during our first set of stretch and folds, we will add our incorporations, our grated carrot, We've got some pecans and some raisins. Okay, we're back. It is time to fold in our incorporations with the first set of stretch and folds. I just got my hands a little bit wet. I like to keep a bowl of water next to me when I'm doing this stretch and folds. It helps the dough not to stick to my hands. So we've got about one full shredded carrot, some raisins, and some pecans. And of course the lovely thing is that you can adjust this recipe to however you like. If you have a favorite like carrot cake recipe, you can just kind of play with those different ingredients. I know my grandma always had one that had like crushed pineapple in it, which would be fun to try too. Ingredients like that, of course, you would have to be very mindful of the extra water that it's going to add. Okay, so stretching and folding is really just what it sounds like. You're stretching the dough and then you're folding it over. You generally do this 4 times. So I do it that side, turn the bowl, this dough is fairly stiff. It has a lower hydration, which just means that it has a lower flour to water ratio, which means it's just going to be a little bit stiffer during these stretch and folds, but it's totally fine. But that is another thing that you can always play with. Add a little bit more hydration. I always recommend starting with a base recipe, seeing how it turns out, and then making your adjustments. Like if this one seems too dry in the end, try adding some of that crushed pineapple. Okay, I think I'm actually at stretch and fold number 5, and I can tell that it's time for me to stop because I'm getting some tearing. The stretch and folds are all about building the gluten and developing it and strengthening it. Tearing is going to break the gluten. This is not something that's going to like make a difference in the end with this loaf, but it is just something to be mindful of. If you're doing your stretch and folds and you notice that you're having a lot of tearing, even in here, this is showing signs of the dough's ready to rest. The gluten needs to rest, and then it'll be able to come back and it'll be stronger for the next set. If we kept stretching it now, we would weaken the gluten and tear it in places, which would just, in the end, have an effect on our loaves. Okay, we're gonna cover it and then come back in 30 minutes. Okay, we're back to do the second set of stretch and folds for this dough. Get my hands a little wet. In a dough with inclusions like this, it's impossible not to get some tears just because the raisins or whatever you've included in there is just going to break through every once in a while, which is fine to have a few tears. Okay, cover it back up, wait 30 minutes, and we'll come back for our last set of stretch and folds. Okay, we're ready to shape our dough. As you can see, it's nice and puffed up and well fermented. So we're just going to dump it out onto the counter. We're going to stretch it out so it's kind of a nice, large, flat surface. This is just going to give us more surface area for adding the cinnamon sugar. I'm just using a blend that I made of cinnamon and sugar. Really simple as that. So we're just going to sprinkle it all over, fold the dough. Anytime you have an opportunity to sprinkle more of the cinnamon sugar on, you'll just get a better swirl in the end. So then we're gonna pinch it shut, add a little bit more, and roll it up. Shaping can be done in a lot of different ways. Don't feel like you have to do it exactly the way that I did it here. So for putting this one into the pan, I'm putting it in a paper towel first, and that is going to soak up any of the moisture. But I'm not going to bake with a paper towel. After the cold proof, I'm going to take it out, replace the parchment, and now I'm scoring it. We're going to bake it with steam at 450 for 20 minutes. I use a cupcake pan with boiling water, and this has preheated for about an hour. After 20 minutes of steam, we remove the steam pan. Here's the result of the carrot cake sourdough. Nice and flexible, super moist. This loaf got a little bit dark on the outside, but I know why that happened. We'll put foil over it in a